Zelda La Grange and Nelson Mandela became firm friends over the years. It was an unlikely partnership, but Madiba didn't care that she came from a conservative Afrikaans family. And Zelda learnt that he was not Nelson Mandela, the terrorist.
Now, as an Afrikaner South African, when you hear of racial incidents, you think we've come along far enough as a country, 20 years into democracy, to really heal ourselves and move beyond the stereotypes that we were all brought up with?
I think, Dan, there's a long way for us to go, but it feels to me personally as if we're slipping back into that prejudices and the fact that people can speak so disrespectful about one another and make irresponsible statements. Yes, I support and I will do whatever I can to protect freedom of speech, but why not in a respectful manner? Why can't you respect your fellow human being? So I'm very passionately involved in debates like that. It's very difficult for me to see, to view my own change, the metamorphosis I've been through from a very conservative. I voted no in the referendum. I voted for the Conservative Party. Yet I could change my thinking, just to allow people around me to live and to recognize them as human beings. I expect people just to open their minds, and again, you can't force people. You have to allow them to come by at their own time, of course. But take from my example, it's possible.
He sort of used it as a bridge. You may not have been aware. That's how many of us saw it, which was wonderful, reaching out to the other side of the community. I mean, when he was on Robben Island, he made sure that he learned Afrikaans so he could communicate and converse with his jailers at the time. But then he made sure when he came out, after the likes of the late Merin Qadana, who, by the way, was my English teacher at school in Soweto in the 70s, and he was, I mean, he made sure, and that's why he brought you in. Did you at any time feel the burden of being this, or you were just not aware, you were just carrying on doing your job?
It was a challenge that I realized this man has put to me. Do you want to be part of showing the world that we're going to move forward as a reconciled country or not? So it was still my choice. I could have walked away, but because Madiba inspired loyalty, because he cared for me, how do you walk away from that? You know, in return, if you really respect a person, as I said earlier, if you care for that person is going to reciprocate in that way. So it wasn't a burden at all. It's not a title I want people or I want to carry, but not a burden for sure.
When you look back, in parts of the book, you do speak about how people interacted with you, how you had to marshal his time and make his availability, and how you made enemies along the way because you were like, I'm sorry to use the word, like the bulldog,
the Rottweiler,
the Rottweiler, stopping everybody from coming in,
yeah.
and relationships along the way. Have you managed to mend some of them? Are there some people who understand what you were doing?
Yes, I'm actually spending a lot of time now apologizing to people, but they now understand. After reading the book, they understand the challenges I faced, the pressure we faced, and it's not easy for one person to try and be the barrier between the world and Nelson Mandela. It's not a joke. So it's role playing. I had to assume a particular role to also make sure that Madiba enjoys the order and the discipline that he preferred. And I hope that he didn't suffer through 19 years and not get rid of me in time if he wasn't happy with the way I organized business around him.
Yeah, and I'm sure the people who are apologizing today do understand that you did a damn good job of it. You had to.
No, thank you, Dan. Yes, I made mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, but I think I admit them, and I could have done things better had I have the experience, perhaps, or the knowledge how to deal with a political environment like that. But that's part of growing up.
Yeah, you said Madiba knew about the book. Did he encourage you?
No, I wouldn't say encourage, but he knew, there would be a book. We spoke about it a few times, and he also knew that I was speaking to other people, helping me, or I was consulting people. So he badly wanted to read it, but I said I would be too embarrassed to ask him to read anything.
When you worked for Madiba, there was hardly any time for anything else. It's very clear in the book itself. You were so busy traveling, busy and stuff, and overtime, and you were pretty much on your own. And I don't know if you have a companion now. Have you found somebody now? Are you in that kind of space?
No, not really, Dan. I've also come to realize that the right thing will happen at the right time, and life will take you where you're supposed to be. I don't know if that's meant to be part of my life. I'm very content with where I am right now. The book is a full-time job right now, so when this process is completed and when I sit at home and I decide about the rest of my life, I'll probably have time for things like that again.
Yeah, I saw your parents at the book launch. Yes. Very, very humble people and unassuming and stuff like that. They must be very proud of what you've achieved.
They are very proud, yes. I must try and sometimes rope them in a little. My father is very proud, of course, and he likes to brag, so I sometimes say to him, no, tone it down a bit. Tone it down.
Well, parents are like that, show off a little bit, yeah. Like and at least you got a bit of time now. Is it a Boston Terrier that you've got?
Two Boston Terriers.
You got time for them as well.
So
now.
They rule my world, and when I travel, because I travel as much as I used to, and when I get home, I still feel guilty not spending enough time with them.
You don't miss traveling, do you?
No, when I'm at home, it's the best life ever. But I travel. I still travel quite a bit in South Africa at the moment, so it's keeping me busy.
Has anybody spoken to you about a possible movie or something, about your story? Has you been traveling overseas?
There's been talk, yes. There's been offers, but I'm not in the space right now. Someone asked me, how many books did you expect to sell? And I said, I don't know, probably 5,000. I think that's fairly good. So I had no expectations, and I don't want to rush through this. You know, I want to make sure that that people receive the book in a proper way before anything else happens with it. So and because I think it also comes out in the book that I'm a perfectionist, so I won't take on anything else unless I'm sure and certain that it's the right thing in the right time.
Yeah. How are you going to be honoring Madiba's memory?
I'll definitely just want to be quiet and by myself, because I've had very little time over the past year for myself. So I'd really like to be by myself as far as possible. And I've made a promise that I'll always light the candle. I've got a beautiful Madiba statue, a small statue that I got as a present once. So I'll light the candle and just spend time thinking about him.